Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am back with our esteemed guest and game master, Abuamerican, aka Abdurrahman, aka Craig. How you doing, Akhi?
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, man. I'm good, man. I'm good. Just, working. How about yourself, bro? How's everything?
Walillah, alhamdulillah. Same, absolutely same here, to be honest with you. Alhamdulillah, can't complain, man. We need to get you a t-shirt, Akhi, that says the game master. I can see that. Or maybe that's
Inshallah. I got like one of those pro polygyny shirts. It's got like it's on my Gumroad. It's like it's a picture of one guy and four women, and then it says this could be us, but you're scared. Pro polygyny on the back.
Tie my laces.
Yeah, I got that too. I got tie my shoes. Yeah,
you got that one, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, there's an echo going on, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me check my mic. Which one is on? Maybe. I know what the problem is.
Abu Ahmed, salam alaikum. Atiya, salam alaikum. Was that Atiya? Atiya. Sounds like a sister's name.
Okay, why is this being like this?
By the way, to those of you watching, I have put a link in the description. Yeah, I think that echo is gone now. I've put a link in the description. And if you have a question and you'd like to ask live, either Abuamerican or myself, you're welcome to come live with us, inshallah ta'ala. What's the topic? You guys are about to find out, inshallah. We're going to chop it up. Just wait for Abuamerican to get his echo thing sorted. Sami, wa alaikum assalam, from Tampa, Florida, mashallah. What time is it in Tampa, Sami? That sounds better, huh? That sounds better.
Yeah, it was the mic. It wasn't hooked up. It was using the computer mic, so it was getting feedback.
Ah, there you go. Alhamdulillah. So yes, Akhi Abuamerican, where would you like to start today?
I've had so many topics. People are throwing these TikToks at me. I'm not really sure where to start. I've seen so much.
Same.
We could start off with chore play.
Okay, good one.
Just for brothers out there, and sisters. Also, don't do this. That whole chore play thing. If you do chores, it's going to raise somehow her desire for you. And that's not the way desire works in a relationship. And we're not just talking. This is, a lot of people say, oh, you always talk about stuff that's only applies to non-Muslims. This applies to Muslims too. You can't negotiate desire, and what's very important, especially in this day and age of social media and all that, thirst trapping out there in the world, is that you build desire in your household. This applies to the woman. This applies to the man, should we go into the woman part real quick? Yeah, let's just do it real quick before we go back into the chore play. Ladies, the best of you should be for your man. You don't listen to me. You do not put on the makeup and the best abaya and all that stuff to go outside the house. You don't do that. It's the other way around. You wear the best stuff for when your man comes home and when you're at the house. And when you go out all raggedy Ann, whatever you want to call it. You go out looking like garbage. Because the guy that it matters the most to, the guy that you want to look the best for, is the one that you're married. Just like you want the best man possible for yourself, he wants the best woman for himself. And so make sure you look your best when you're at the house, Then coming back to the chore play. Now, guys, this whole idea and this whole concept, when you start hearing stuff from a woman, in case you haven't watched the video over on my channel, when she starts talking about, oh, I need more time, I need this, if you do the dishes, I'll have more desire, and you're struggling, you're running in a dry household, guys. It's not that. It's just a lack of desire. The moment you like start doing all the dishes or whatever else, and she has free time, she's like, oh well, and then you're like, well, you got more free time, baby. Why am I not more sexy to you? Why am I not more attracted to you? It's not the dishes, it's you. Because then when she gets the free time, she's going to say you're imposing on her free time that she needs for herself. So there's always going to be just another hurdle for you to jump over. And so you really need to look at what you're doing wrong in terms of attraction in the household. I've heard this actually. You know how many messages I got on my phone, guys? Like, that video came at the perfect time. It's been crazy. So I don't know how many guys don't know this. It's not the dishes. It's not the laundry. It's not taking out the trash. It's something else. She don't like you.
2 questions then. Why do you think when a woman is asked, because I see this happen a lot, when women are asked, there's that feedback again?
Okay, weird.
I'll ask you the question. That's better. Why do you think when women are asked, they tend to respond with that response, which is, if only you did more around the house, I would desire you more? Why do you think that's the go-to response? And where did they make that connection in the first place?
I can't really call, I can't figure out why it's the go-to response. I think it's just a matter of occupying him with something other than her, really.
Wow.
So, how can I get him to do something other than me? I mean, really, that's what it boils down to. It's a distraction. It's like, oh, he's over there busy with that, and therefore he's not busy with me. This is why sometimes you find some wives, they're like, why don't you get another wife? And they truly mean it, because then it becomes, oh, well, you're feeling, you want to do the halal hokey pokey dance. Okay, well, you go to your other wife. I'm tired. And you literally hear this. Some women do this. So I think it's just a matter of getting you occupied with something other than them. Some women, they're too jealous, and then they're not going to give their man what he needs to keep him interested. But at the same time, they don't want to release him to another woman. It's sort of like those, when you see the non-Muslims, and it's like a woman has a guy in a friend zone, and then she gets upset when he goes and actually enters into a relationship. She's like, oh, well, he's got a relationship now. It's like, I don't want him, but then I don't want anybody else to have him either.
Yeah.
But then you're married to someone who thinks like this. You know what I mean?
I mean, see, I've got a guilty confession to make, and that guilty confession is I sometimes like to watch reality TV shows. And the reason why is you get to watch firsthand relationship dynamics play out, unadulterated, unfiltered, on camera for you to see. And one thing that I see over and over and over again, and it's fascinating, is whenever the man is in a situation with his woman whereby he desires her more, which is typically what happens in most long-term relationships, unfortunately, right?
Indeed.
He will go into the self-accountability mode, which is a good thing, you would have thought. But any virtue taken to its extreme becomes a vice. So I'll give you an example of what I mean. She doesn't desire him for whatever reason. So typically the reason she'll say to him, you need to man up more. You pay the bills and you do everything, but you don't pay enough attention to me. Or you didn't help me with this, that, the third. You didn't take me there when I asked you to. So now she's tapping into his masculine pride, which is man up, be a man, self-accountability. And he says, you know what? You're right, babe. If only I took more responsibility, if only I was more self-accountable. You're right. You're absolutely right. I should clean the dishes more. I should wipe the floor more. I should have taken you to your mother's when you commanded me to at whatever time at night. On and on and on. And the more he concedes to her, thinking that this is me taking responsibility, the worse the situation gets. And it's like this awful, ugly paradox of him being the man. It's happening in the program I'm watching right now, right? He's taking on more and more self-accountability, responsibilities, all of those good things, but any virtue taken to its extreme becomes a vice. And I have to actually give Rami credit from T3M, because when I was talking about self-accountability on their podcast, he actually mentioned this point to me, and it was a good point. He said, yeah, but you have to be careful, because if a man is constantly saying, yes, it's my fault, it was on me, then he will never check his woman when she does step out of line. Because think about it, if all you're ever saying is, it's my fault, it's on me, your bad behavior is because of me, well, you're never going to actually check your woman. So I guess the question that I have for you then, Abuamerican, is how do we make that balance between taking self-accountability, being responsible, but then at the same time, checking your woman or your wife when the need arises appropriately? It's a delicate dance.
Indeed. First off, let me say Jazakallah khair. And may Allah love you, Rashid Khuzaima. So Barakallah feek, Jazakallah khair. I'm a big fan of absolute personal accountability and responsibility, obviously. I mean, we look to ourselves first. And this comes back to like the whole multiple divorce things that I get caught up in a lot. A lot. People make, valid or invalid claims against me. The first thing you have to do is look at all your past like mistakes and failures. This irrespective of relationships or not. So what you want to do is first off see, but in relationships in specific, and what went right, what went wrong, and what was like in the middle. And then you look at what went right and what did I do? You know, what was I directly connected to what went right, or was that some outside, influence? Generally, you want to look at what you did right and leave the outside influences, alone. Don't think about that. That's the stuff of lottery. Outside influences. You want to look at what you influenced. What went wrong, and in the same thing, forget outside influences. What did you do wrong? And then thirdly, look at like stuff that's just in the middle. You can't figure out what exactly happened, or there's a lot of stuff at play, so much so where the outside influences were so significant that you didn't really have control over the situation. Now, with doing this, what you're going to do is you're going to start taking accountability for your situations and start being able to mark up what someone else's, failures are. So you look at your positives, you look at your negatives, and in the middle is where your partner comes into play. These are the uncontrollable influences in terms of your partner. So now when you're looking at this is where you start to give their accountability and say, okay, look, you know what? I did my part. I know what I did right, or I know what I did wrong. But somewhere in there's always going to be that middle play, because another person, the other sovereign individual in your relationship, your partner, male or female, is going to have their part that they play in things going right or wrong. Because there's in going right, there's your action and the influence it has on her or him and how it comes out positive. In the negative, it's the same thing. Your interaction, how it comes positive or negative, or in this regard, negative, how it plays out on them and how they respond. And then there's going to be that middle zone where you're like, okay, what happened here? And you look at that, once you eliminate, okay, I did my part, I did it right. Now what's going on here? And this is where you start to engage them and say, hey, look, you know what, baby, I did my part. Now we're looking at a negative outcome of me putting in the positive part of my job. I did the positive work. So what are we arguing about here? What's going on here? Why are you coming at me crazy or sideways? And a lot of times, guys, and I talk about this when I was still married to Becky, and I got a video with Becky and Ling Ling, and it's called Fight or Flight. You can still look it up. And I start talking to Becky and Ling Ling about fight or flight, because they were like, why are we having like a negative response out of you? And I'm like, look, my two options as a man is either fight or flight. And you're my woman. I don't want to fight you, and I definitely don't want to run from you. So now what we end up in is we end up in a battle, because generally male ego, we don't like to be challenged. And so I'm not going to run from you. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to let you punk me as my wife. So you have to look at that also. Like the fight or flight reaction that you're having. Most men have a flight reaction because they're too scared to lose their women, because they have a scarcity mindset. And I understand you want to maintain your relationship. You don't want to lose your wife, obviously. I mean, nobody wants to lose their wives. Many times I've been married, I've not had a single wife. I wanted to just there's a few I wanted to get rid of, but not many. You know what I mean? It's a matter of necessity. So there, I'm getting long-winded, and I apologize. But there in this is where you start taking accountability for them. And then you got to call them on it. Because a lot of times, and ladies, get mad at me if you like, but a lot of times women don't take personal accountability for their actions and the outcomes that happen in a relationship. This is why at the end of the relationship, they start building up that whole he's a bad guy dynamic. He's emotionally abusive. He's financially abusive. He's, they come up with all these new types of abuse that you're like, wait, how's that abusive? Financial abuse? Like, what the heck? He's hitting you with dollar bills. He's got a stack of hundreds taped up, and he's like, whack, what is he doing here? What is the financial abuse? So, and then they make you into this bad guy, so.
I mean, I think that you said it first. You said it that it's difficult for women to take self-accountability. And I've touched this with you in the past, and you mentioned to me that it's because men are the leaders, typically speaking, it comes more naturally to a man to be self-accountable and take responsibility, because you have to. As a leader, if you don't take self-responsibility, accountability, and all that stuff, well, it's all basically impossible to lead, right? But the sour end of that stick is that oftentimes women get off scot-free without being held accountable at all. Hence why shows like Kevin Samuels, Fresh and Fit are so popular, because they're doing something that's never been done before on a big scale, which is holding women accountable and then throwing in the element of entertainment with it as well. And it's like catching like wildfire, because we just haven't seen it before. Imagine the opposite dynamic, a show of men being held accountable. Nobody really cares. Like, all right, men being held accountable. That's all that's ever happened, men being held accountable. Man up, be more of a man, But it's funny because in this show that I'm watching right now, this man there's this weird paradoxical relationship of the more he tries to please her, the more contempt she shows towards him, the more respect she loses for him, and the less intimacy they have, because he talks about, you know, our intimacy has disappeared since we've gotten married and so on. And it's crazy because he's doing all of the right things. You know, he's taking responsibility, he's being accountable, he's working harder to please her. And this comes back down to something I've quoted it a few times, Hafiz and the roommates, from the roommates. He said it before. He said, just because it makes her happy doesn't mean it makes her horny. So you might be running after from pillar to post, keeping her happy, but now she loses respect for you. And you're in a worse situation than what you were before. And I guess this comes down to basically RP awareness. What do you think?
No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you're not aware of, like, you know, female dynamics and how, you know, attraction works in women, you're going to struggle in a relationship. And this is where male ego investment comes into play, and why we face, guys like us on YouTube and whatnot, face a lot of resistance, because their invested male ego and understanding of male and female interrelationship dynamics is put at risk, for lack of a better term. You know, it's like he's invested so much of himself in this idea of how he wants his relationship to be and how his woman's going to respond to him. And then we come along and it's like, no, it's not going to work like that. You shatter his idea. Well, this comes back to the whole fight or flight thing. Well, you know, what does he want to do? He wants to fight now because it's another guy. And he's like, oh, no, my girl's going to be like this. Women aren't like that. And he's like, no, yes, they are, you know. But you know, because like I said, he's ego invested. Classic example. I love him to death. You know, he's my father, but my father's the same way. My father swears up and down I'm like an absolute misogynist. I'm like, how am I absolute misogynist? I got women that love me in my life. Help me understand this. But you know, his idea, which hasn't worked for him, to top it off, you know, he's having, you know, and I'm not bad mouthing my dad, but he's had multiple worse than me in terms of like failed relationships, because in these relationships, the women destroyed him. I mean, they have destroyed him. He keeps trying the same model over and over, and they eat him alive. I mean, they're messing him up. And I love my dad, you know, and he's still going through it, right? You know, and I'm 40, I'm almost 50. So imagine how old my dad is, and he's still struggling with women. It's like, dude, you ain't figured it out yet, you know? So, but it's his ego investment in how his romanticized idea of women. And so what he starts to do, and this is a classic red pill one, is he's trying to love women for something that they never wanted to be. You know, he's trying to love them for something that they don't want to be loved for. And it's like,
can you give an example? What do you mean by that?
Just this apotheosis of women, guys, and Muslims listen, brothers, and I, you know, when I say this stuff, don't misunderstand me, but you brothers are worse. You do worse at this, making the apotheosis of women, especially Muslim women. And what apotheosis means, it's like you make them into these angelic beings, you know, like they're floating above us with their wings and halos, playing harps, looking down at us, you know, the horn dogs. And it's like, no, dude, they're down here with us, absolute horn dogs. You just have to understand she is one also. It's just, we don't do it, and we don't deal with that biological nature, quote unquote, for lack of a better term, that Allah has put into us in the same way that the non-Muslims do. We have a halal and we have a haram. We deal with it in a halal way as best as possible, right? So you get married, and then who let the dogs out? Well, we did, because we got married, you know. But then a lot of guys, and this comes into this thing I talked about in the video before, I can't remember which one or the title, but guys are getting married and they're like, you know, oh, in the first week of marriage, we're going to read Quran together, you know, every night. And it's like, no, dude, she's ready. She's waiting. That's why she got married, you know. Handle business. And then, you know, they mess everything up, because then he takes away what she enjoys, which is being a being that enjoys attention, both physical and emotional and socially, you know, or that's more than both, but you know what I'm saying? He takes that away from her. How does she respect that? You know, it's like, ugh, you won't even touch me. You know, it's like, what am I, ugly? What am I, nasty? You know, I know I'm attractive. There's something wrong with you. And he can, this doesn't have to be the case, but he can build up like a disdain in her heart because of the way he acts, trying to make her into this angelic being, instead of like, you know, hey, we're here, we're married, we're halal, get that hijab off, girl, let's go.
Yeah, so
blow up in your face.
Yeah, I remember listening to a podcast not too long ago. In fact, it was on the T3M podcast, and they were interviewing this brother who I believe either he used to be a pimp or he knew someone that used to be a pimp, one of the two. And
Okay.
I forget the brother's name. He's a revert brother as well, and he has 2 wives right now. We got an echo going on again. Abuamerican.
I'll mute the mic. I don't know what's going on with it. Ever since I changed the battery, this thing's been acting crazy. I'll take it apart today, but I'll mute for now.
Okay. And he mentioned he was of the opinion that because women are so used to being sexually objectified, that if you as a man, after you have married your wife, you don't approach her physically. And he actually put a timestamp on it. I can't remember exactly how long it was, and I'm reluctant to give an exact time, but I believe it was something like 7 days or something like this, of not approaching her physically and simply instead talking about stuff that women not like to talk about. And the immediate thing I thought of was exactly what you said just now, which was, if she desires you, but you are not reflecting that back to her, that could be taken as a serious insult, Like, what are you trying to say? I'm ugly? Are you not attracted to me? What's going on? How do you feel about that? Because his reasoning was women are so used to getting sexual attention that when you don't give it to them, this could be complimentary to her.
You know, it was a very controversial interview. I've taken it down recently. I interviewed that guy, Joe Lampton. It was very controversial. Right. He's a non-Muslim guy, you know, and he's from an Islamic perspective, he's a pretty bad guy. I mean, in a personal level, he's a nice guy. But anyway, he dropped something that I kind of knew, but he put it in a way that I never understood before in such a clear and concise way, which is basically, when you're in halal relations with your wife, you know, this is intense, focused attention. Remember, what is most important to women? Your time and your attention. And the more quality is, the better it is. This is why you don't just give your attention to any and every woman that comes along. Listen, guys, and guys should know this. We're going to get back into the topic, but just so guys understand this, do not, if you're online, don't give women your attention. You shouldn't be doing it anyway, but if you are, don't do it. And definitely don't do it freely, because what happens is this: it doesn't make you more attractive to the woman. Why? Because what is physical access to women is attention to men. So, for clarity, if a woman freely gives access to men, to her body, physical access to her body, what do we call her? We know the words, you know, there's multiple bad words to describe this type of woman. You know, she's a hoe, she's this, she's that, whatever else. That's what happens. No guy wants to marry her. We'll find, inshallah, non-Muslim guys that'll spend all sorts of time, you know, doing their thing with her, but when it comes down to marriage, they're not going to want to marry her. You are the same thing when you freely give attention to women, because what's important to women from you? Time and attention. Nothing makes it special when you give your attention to a bunch of women. And so when you're on social media and women see this in mass, and you're like, oh, well, if I give the sister attention, she'll want to marry me. No, she's like, you say that to all the girls. Yeah, that means you're a whore. That means you are a hoe. You're a male hoe. So don't give your attention to women freely. Just in the same way, women shouldn't give their bodies to men freely. So now, when you are in a halal relationship, I have to say this often because people always assume the worst, unfortunately. When you're in a halal relationship, relations with your wife are intense attention. It's intense, focused. Man, I lost the topic going off on that corner. What was it? Where were we at again?
You literally just cut out as well. You were talking about when you're in a halal relationship, you give your woman intense focus.
Yeah. What my opinion on? Oh yes, the time frame. So when you get married, the first thing you want to do is you want to, of course, obviously establish, you know, what is high quality, intense deference and what isn't. Why would you not do that on the first opportunity you get? That's what she's there for, right? You got married. You as a man generally, and it's not the only thing, obviously, but you get married, you want halal access to a woman. That's what's important to you, right? This is the beauty of Islam. This is the beauty of it, because Allah knows his creation best. So what you want is what she wants, and it comes together in terms of physical relations. She wants intense, focused, high quality attention, and you want physical access. You get married, what happens? You bring the two together. Why would you not do that as soon as possible? You want it, that's why you got married. She wants it, that's why she got married. So it doesn't make sense to hold out for weeks and weeks and weeks. See, this is what guys complain about now. Imagine this is the same thing that happens just in reverse. Oh, my wife, she won't sleep with me. It's been months. Well, what are you doing to her in the first couple of weeks of the marriage? You're doing the exact same thing. You're showing her that she's not worthy of intense, focused attention and deference and love. Make that make sense.
Rollo has a great saying. He says, the coin of the realm in girl world is attention. That's the currency. The currency in girl world is attention. The currency for us is physical, is intimate access, right? We want intimate access with our women. But for women, it's attention. And I like what you said there, that when you're giving your attention away willy-nilly, freely, that's actually very powerful. It's the same as a man sleeping with any woman willy-nilly, freely. Oh, sorry, it's the same as a woman sleeping with any men willy-nilly, freely. She is not. Her sexual access is no longer valued. That's actually very profound. So if you're given your attention left and right, willy-nilly, freely, your attention is also not valued. But you see, the problem here now, Akhi Abuamerican, is if you're a brother who's looking to get married and he doesn't have much experience, maybe he's looking to get married for the first time, what advice would you give him when it comes to, speaking to sisters online? Because obviously he's going to have to shoot his shot. How does he go about doing that without making his attention cheap by giving it everywhere?
Well, it's preferable from an Islamic standpoint not to speak sisters online. That's just to be clear. We understand it happens, and so we'll go from the position that we understand it happens. That it's become the new go-to point to find a marital partner in Islam. It's like planting seeds. You plant a seed, and then later on the crops grow. So it's the same thing with female attention. It's like push-pull. You have to be able to push a little bit and then pull back. And you have to, this is obviously, something that takes social acumen. This is why I tell guys to learn, social acumen, because you have to understand when to push and when to pull. And it doesn't really take a lot, because a lot of times if a woman is actually very interested in you, or you're a high quality or high value man, they're looking for a way in anyway. Women are not really good at approach. Girl game is horrible. They suck at it, And so what they're looking for is just a thread of interest from you, so that they don't feel the pain of rejection, which is usually something that men feel, because women wait for a man to approach and then she decides, oh, do I like this guy? I don't like him. And then she rejects guys accordingly. But they are terrified of rejection. And so if you just drop a little thread of interest, doesn't have to be serious, whatever else. Don't come with the whole salam alaikum game thing, whatever else. It could be as simple as, oh man, they're going to eat me alive for this, but I'm going to drop it. I get Instagram follows from sisters on my professional account, not my Abuamerican account, my professional one. And so I see that there's a pattern. So what a sister will do is she'll drop a ton of likes, just go down the whole. I'm like, okay, who likes this many pictures at once? They're trying to get your attention. So I'll go back through their Instagram if it's open, or if it's not open, then I'll send a request, for it to be open. That's my sign of interest. Or if it's open, then I'll go through and I'll find their foodie pictures, but no pictures of them as women themselves. Because if they have a picture up of themselves, this is negative. This is a red flag anyway. But if they do have them up, I'm like, okay, maybe nobody's watching. We'll find out her mentality on it later. I'll like their food pictures or something, like 2 or 3 maximum. And then that's enough usually for them to make an approach. They're like, oh wow, okay, signal's clear, path is clear.
This is 21st century halal dating. I don't want to call it dating, but it's halal approach. 21st century.
It's a mess out there, bro. Wallahi, it's a mess. I'm not a big fan of it, but sometimes that's just catches your eye. I'm a guy like anybody else. I'm like, ooh, Allahu Akbar.
Just how many followers does your professional account have?
Not a lot.
Right.
Give me 1 second. I'll let you know. Of course, who wants to go slow? I have a total of oh, come on. Why is everything running so slow now? 243.
Right.
I follow 76.
I was gonna say that. So to the sister, sorry, it's echoing again.
Oh.
To the sisters watching, that could work with an account that has sub 1,000 followers, but once an account gets to a certain level of followers, and it doesn't need to be that many. I don't have many followers. I've only got about 2,000 on my personal account, and my notifications are mad to the point I don't check my notifications anymore. My comments and likes, and I don't check them. So if you're going to try that, that strategy with a brother, just bear in mind, if he's got even just like 1,500 followers, then he's probably got notifications popping off. And the thing with notifications is, once you start getting a lot of notifications, you become immune to the red signal thing. So that red symbol, that red flashing notification, has an impact on you when you're only getting 2 or 3 a day. Once you're getting too many, you become numb to it. I don't check them anymore. So just bear that in mind. Look at the brother's account size. If he's got not even that big, like just a 1,500, like I said, that I stopped checking my notifications. It's too much. It's too much.
Yeah, I won't lie. Between all of my platforms, I get everything on my phone. I'm looking at least a minimum of 500 notifications a day, minimum. So it's hard to keep up,
Yeah, that's long. That's long. I switched them all off on my phone. All my notifications are off, all of them, because it's like it's my slave master calling me. Mahdi, ta'al, you have a notification to look at, Okay, we have a question here, Abuamerican. I want you to handle this one. What should I do before I am ready to get a second wife? I've only been married for a year. I mean, I'm sure you could do a whole session on that.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, that's very, very, very general. Yeah. Look, first thing, the most important thing to do is to make sure that your current relationship is at like its high. Make sure it's very good. Don't try and go in your relationship's just like it's all right. Yeah, it's okay. No, your relationship needs to be top notch, on point. Because if it's top notch on point, it's going to go down to okay. If your relationship's okay, it's going to go down to bad. If it's bad, it's going to go down to I wish I never brought this topic up. So make sure your relationship is on top notch, high point. Make sure it's at its highest point before you make that move. And do not mention the topic of multiple wives or another wife until you have a sister that you're ready to marry within a few days. Because if you mention it now, and then like you don't have zero prospects, you're going to suffer all of that, drop in your relationship without the benefits of another wife. Because what happens is the new wife, she generally tends to be on best behavior. And so at least you get some sort of respite from like your current wife's anger. Whether you want to call it justified or not, that's a whole different conversation. You go to the other wife's house. She's new. She's happily married. She's in competition mode. So she's going to be on her best behavior. So at least you catch a break, from the anger until you can get your wife back into like a homeostasis in terms of her emotions and get the relationship back up to where it should be, to where she's feeling secure. She's feeling happy that the situation hasn't impacted her life in a negative way. Because women are solipsistic, and that's not a bad thing. We're not going to crap on the sisters for that. We understand they're jealous. We understand. We accept that, but you have to bring her to that point to where she's like, oh, okay, this is working. This isn't bad, So those two things, don't, make sure your relationship is at a high point, and don't mention another wife until you have one and you're about to go get married. Don't do it, because you're just going to suffer all of the consequences and have none of the benefits.
I mean, just to add to that as well, no matter which way you do it, and I speak from experience because I've done polygyny in different ways. So the first time I got married for this, okay, this is going to be confusing. The first time I got married for the second time, the second wife, I didn't tell my first wife, okay? But then it leaked out through a family member and we had a massive bust up and explosion. The second time I got married to the third wife, sorry, Akhi, could you mute the echo again, please?
Oh, yeah, my bad. Sorry, I keep forgetting.
The second time I got married to the, okay, so it would have been my third marriage. Yes. I had 2 wives already. One wife I told that I'm getting married again. The other wife I didn't. Why? Because the first wife, from my experience with her reactions were so explosive, so bad, that I didn't want to go through that again. The second wife, I knew that she would deal with it more maturely. And although we went through our problems, it was she had a quieter response and reaction. Now, with that all being said, I must make it very clear to you, brothers, that when I did polygyny, I did it all wrong, right? I was not in my frame. I did not have leverage. I was not the providing for them completely. So I was already doing polygyny from a position of weakness. You see, if I was doing polygyny from a position of strength, I probably would have told my first wife regardless, hey, look, this is what the time is, right? And this brings me to my next point, which is when you do polygyny from a position of weakness like I did, you will forever be scared of the reactions of your wives, and it will show in your behavior, and you will not have that I want to use the word, I don't want to use the word upper hand because it's a bit like overbearing, but you want to have the leverage in your relationships as a man. And when you don't, your women lose respect for you. So if you are considering doing polygyny, just make sure you have the leverage. And by leverage, I mean, you're doing those, you know, you're taking care of your wife comfortably. She doesn't, Mathalan, for example, she doesn't have to work and you're still taking care of her. She respects you in that way. You have authority over her. Like, there were so many things wrong in my first marriage. And then I went and complicated my life with the second one. I didn't have that type of respect from my first wife. Maybe because we got married so young, we got married as kids. I don't know. There's 101 different reasons why that could have been the case. But if these important components are out of place, getting another woman exacerbates everything times 100. You know, what would you say about that, Abuamerican?
No, absolutely. I mean, in terms of what you're saying about being prepared, that's also, you know, obviously I'm speaking from the position that you are, you're prepared, you know, because if you're not, then that's going to put you in a really bad position. That gives them a legitimate reason to criticize you and to, you know, attack you, a legitimate angle of attack. And she's going to come at you no matter what anyway, because she's coming from an emotional position. So make sure your P's and Q's, you know, are right. Your T's are crossed, your I's are dotted, you know, and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, because otherwise it's going to bite you in the rear, and probably rightfully so. You know?
Right, exactly. Rashid says here, many brothers want to marry a second wife, but the first wife does not. Many brothers struggle with this. What's your advice to these brothers, especially in the times we live in when the woman works? You want to take that, Ahi?
Yeah, many brothers want to marry a second wife, but the first wife does not, obviously. Many brothers struggle with this. Yeah, I mean, listen, Aisha radiallahu anha was jealous. She was jealous. She was Mu'mineen. She was the one who saw the camel of the Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, collapse when he received wahi, because how heavy it was. It was literally had a physical effect. She saw him when he was receiving wahi, sweating on cold nights. She was in the house of revelation, and she was a jealous woman. Well, what were you thinking about Fatima around the corner, who grew up, you know, in Small Heath or wherever else? She's gonna be jealous. So we have two things happening here. So first, we have to come from a position that we as men, we understand that this is going to be the condition, but we also have, now see, and this is what we can't control, is we need our sisters to understand the same thing. That the men of the past, before Islam came, and even after Islam, the men wanted women. They wanted wives. They wanted the captives from the battles. They wanted women, and we're not better than those men. We are men also, and we don't have their iman, so we want multiple wives also. And this is not to mean just because you don't have the iman, you can't have multiple wives. No, you probably need it more, you know, to protect yourself. So we need sisters to now take the position that we have taken. We understand that they're jealous. We need them to understand that we're hot-blooded, you know, for lack of a better term.
I think a lot of women feel like it's a slight on them. If a man wants another woman, it's because there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with me as a woman. How would you respond to them? I hear this a lot.
Yeah. Women always believe this stuff. There's two things. There's two positions that come from here. The worst position is a woman who doesn't want to act on her competition anxiety. These are those women who let go when they get married. They get married and all of a sudden she starts gaining a lot of weight. She stops doing her hair. Her makeup no longer gets done. You know, she's happy to be off of the marriage market. She doesn't want to compete anymore. And so when you get married again, what does that do? It puts her in a position where she has to do work. She wants to be the lazy husband. Just like you got that lazy husband that doesn't, you know, he wants to play video games. He doesn't want to do anything. He wants his wife to work, you know, so that she takes half the role. It's sort of the same thing. She just doesn't want competition. She wants to be a lazy wife. She doesn't want to have to work out, watch her diet. She doesn't want to have to do her hair and her makeup for this guy. I got married. I could just let go now. Oh, this is great. You know, no longer have to worry about being attractive. That's the worst kind of woman. So if you get married again, what happens? She has to compete. Then she gets really mad. Then you got the type of woman who doesn't understand that a man can love multiple women at once, you know, and he can love each woman deeply and truly, completely. Because what women do is they externally project their concept of love onto men. And this is where the whole concept in red pill monkey branching comes from. A woman monkey branches. If you guys don't know what monkey branching means, you know, is where a monkey doesn't let go of one branch until it holds on to another. A woman doesn't change a relationship until she has another one secured. This is where the cheating overlap comes in. So what happens is she sees something wrong with her man. She congruence tests him. He fails the congruence test continuously. She finds a man who doesn't fail the congruence test. He checks better boxes than her current man, and then she looks to swing to the next relationship. So in her mind, the way her love works is, I would not leave my man unless I had a better one. And so when she's looking at you take another wife, she's thinking he's leaving me, or he's getting another wife, or sometimes the incoming wife thinks he's coming to me because I'm a better option.
SubhanAllah. Brilliant.
And it's not like that. It's not like that, women. If any lady who's watched it, it's not like that. We love women. So we will love you absolutely.
They're projecting their imperative upon us, how they think and behave upon us.
Absolutely. So they're externally projecting their internal concept of love. And it's not the same. Men and women, we love, but how we love is different. And that makes sense. Absolutely. Because the way we reproduce is different. So the way we love is obviously going to be different. You know, so.
Excellent. Yeah. Renato says, do you guys have experience with Muslim matchmakers in the West? I don't. Abuamerican, do you?
As we would say in German, Jein. Yes and no. I used one. And I mean, I got married through it. You know, I went to a masjid, and you know, I said, hey, I'm looking for a wife, and I got introduced to a family that day, and I met the sister like maybe 2 days later. We ended up getting married. So, wow. But like in terms of an absolute matchmaker, like that's their specialty. No, I have no experience with it personally. Although I don't think it's a bad thing. I just think you should like include your family in most of this as much as possible, because now we're seeing a lot of, you know, with these matrimonial apps and all this stuff, we're seeing a lot of haram going on, and it's, you know, it's less than ideal.
Barakallahu feek. All right, this question here, Akhi Abuamerican, I want you to take it first, inshallah. I'll go after you. How can you prove from the Quran and Sunnah that a red pill is permissible to follow?
You can't. You can't. Look, I come back to, I've given this example a lot, and it's like the cooking example. I'm going to give red pill the same example as we use in cooking. So cooking, we have halal, we have haram, right? You can't eat pork. You can eat beef. If you cook, let's say you want to have a bacon cheeseburger. Obviously, you can't eat a bacon cheeseburger in the sense that we understand it in the West. But there is turkey bacon and there is beef bacon. So we can adapt the bacon cheeseburger formula, recipe, to make it halal. We get our halal beef, we get turkey bacon that's halal, or we get beef bacon, and we have our turkey burger, right? So what we can change, we adapt. Cooking, right? What can't be changed, or excuse me, I missed the point. What's halal and what's direct, like hamburgers, we just eat it because we know hamburgers halal. We make our halal hamburgers, we eat it. The bacon burger, we can't eat it as it is, but we adapt it and we take it and we make it so it is halal. We change out the pork bacon and we make it into turkey or beef bacon. Then we have like pulled pork sandwiches. There is no way you can make a pulled pork sandwich halal. There's no adaptation. There's no way to change it. And so we abandon that. Red pill is the same way. What we can take face value, we take. What we can't take face value, we adapt. What we cannot adapt, we abandon. The book and the sunnah is always the priority. Red pill, it's the same thing with any sort of medicine that we take. You know, if you have medicine with alcohol in it, unless there's like some sort of express allowance for you to take that, we abandon it. We use something else. Everything in the dunya, we use this principle. But somehow all of a sudden, people don't think that we can apply this principle to red pill. Why not? We do it in everything else, but all of a sudden it becomes impossible with red pill. Come on, guys. So it's the same principle. It's not a matter of you can prove from the Quran and Sunnah. It's just a simple understanding of the Quran and Sunnah that everything in the dunya is halal unless there's a ruling to make it haram. And everything in the religion is haram, aka a bid'ah, unless there's a proof to make it halal. Well, this is a matter of the dunya. So when we come across something that we know is haram, we abandon it.
Right.
It's easy.
I mean, okay, first thing and foremost, so to Brother Sharif, once again, the existential fear amongst Muslims is that red pill is an ideology. And I know Abuamerican has said in the past that it is an ideology, and I definitely believe it can be an ideology. Anything can become ideological. Bloody veganism, veganism vegans have taken eating plants to the point where it's become almost a religious thing, right? If you don't eat plant food, if you eat animal food, sorry, or non-vegan products, you have sinned. It's like a cardinal vegan sin. So anything can become an ism if you want to play that game, right? It can do, and it can become ideological. But at its root, it is not. And I will say to you this, Brother Sharif, if you're not red pill, you're blue pill. You're either aware or you're not. So then my question back to you is, what proof from the Quran and Sunnah do you have that blue pill is permissible to follow? Because that's what you're doing. And the point of me asking you that question is to show you that the question is fundamentally flawed. It's a flawed question. The question is wrong because you are coming from a position of this is an ideology. And as I've said, anything can become an ideology if taken to its extreme. But fundamentally, it's not. It's like you saying to me, what proof from the Quran and Sunnah do you have, Mahdi, that you can study sports and exercise science at the University of Hertfordshire? Because that's what I did. I studied sports and exercise science at the University of Hertfordshire. Do I need a proof from the Quran and Sunnah to prove that this is halal? Do I? There's nothing. I can't find anything. So then, just as Abuamerican said, everything in the deen is halal unless it is proven haram, with the exception of affairs of aqidah, if I'm not mistaken. Okay? Aside from that, everything is halal until proven otherwise. This is just a study. Yes, it can be taken to its extreme and it can become an ideology. I accept that. Just like veganism can become an ideology. Even certain fitness groups swear by their method of training, their method of bodybuilding. Their method of bodybuilding is the best, right? That can happen. But at its root, it's just a study. If you see good things, like Abuamerican said, take it. And whatever is wrong, what you see is blatantly wrong and haram, of course you leave it. Again, it comes down to a fundamental misunderstanding of what RP is. And I will conclude with how I started. What proof can you bring from the Quran and Sunnah that blue pill is permissible to follow? Because that's what you're doing. Okay, Amir al-Khuzari says, how do you deal with wives' manipulative behavior? After arguments, she does not talk to you for days. She'll refrain from having sex, and she speaks on the phone all happy, assuming he means to her friends, but is upset with her husband. Oh dear. Abuamerican, tfaddal akhi.
Well, I mean, first off, you've done the most important point. You've identified that this is like a manipulative behavior. The second thing is you have to, now this is hard because, you know, you can't speak logic and reason to women, but you have to make them understand that this is very toxic behavior. This is very unhealthy for a relationship. And if a woman's doing this, then either she grew up with this as the model, that her reproductive model, she's seen her mother do this to her parents, or she, you know, finds it easy to do to you because she doesn't like you. Either way, you know, this is part of being on your mission as a man. You know, when you're on your mission as a man, this type of stuff doesn't affect you. I mean, I love my wife. I've never had a wife that I love more than the one I have right now. She's the best wife I've ever had, mashallah. I love her the most. But if she doesn't talk to me for days, she knows I won't talk to her for days, because then I'll be on here. I'll write my book. I got this. I got videos. I got content to make, whatever else. I'll go back here in my punching bag. It'll be like she doesn't exist because I have my mission. I have my goals. And so it's like, you know, she is an accessory to my mission, my goal in my life. She's not the focal point of it. So if she wants to withhold intimacy or whatever else, or be angry or this type of, well, intimacy is a problem. That's a big problem. But, you know, you fix this with multiple wives, because one of them's always, if she sees that it's like something's going on, she's gonna strike. That's that competition and anxiety. Just jumping in and coming back before I go back to my point. This is one of the beauties of having multiple wives, because competition and anxiety is real. She's not going to, you know, reduce intimacy with you when she knows there's somebody else that will take advantage of that situation. She's like, I'm not going to let her get the one up on me. And, you know, maybe he's going to start making her the favorite, or like, you know, I'm going to try and get the favorite. That's not going to happen. But coming back to it, when you have a focus and you have a mission, her little tantrums and hissy fits, they have no effect on you. And what in turn that does is, when she sees it doesn't affect you. The reason why she does this here is because she knows it works. So if she didn't have the idea and the concept in her mind that she understood that this was a tactic that worked on you, she wouldn't use it. She'd try and find something else, but you go back to the same thing. It just doesn't work on me. You know, so either you're gonna have to do the woman thing, and you're gonna have to sit down and talk to me, or I'm just gonna be like, yeah, okay, baby, oh, yeah. You know, I hate to say it, we're bad listeners, guys, especially when women start going into emotions. We're just like, yeah. But you do that, or the option is you stay on your mission, you stay on your goal, and that stuff doesn't affect you because what does it matter to you? And that's not to take away the love you have for her, but it's just like. I don't know if I'm making sense here. Am I making sense here? You know, to me, because it's more of a feeling in my mind. If my wife withdraws, you know, any sort of affection, doesn't talk to me, I'm like, okay, well, I got something to do anyway. So great. You know what I mean? I could write 40 pages.
Let me jump in here. What you have said, Akhi, is so important. And I just wanted you to finish that point. It's very important. Firstly and foremostly, I like that you didn't answer this from the perspective of this is haram. Because, yes, of course, we know it's haram for her to withhold sex from her husband, right? Okay. But how, like, come on. Most of us Muslims are average Muslims, right? So you can tell that to a sister all day long. If she doesn't want to do it, a lot of sisters are not going to do it unless she truly fears Allah. Say that again, sorry?
I said, yeah, she's not going to do it.
Right. So I like that you didn't answer it from that perspective, even though that would be correct. However, you mentioned something and you said, fine, you don't want to? Fine, I'm going to do my own thing. That response that you gave there, Abuamerican, that is not rewarding bad behavior. And what do I mean by rewarding? She wants to get a rise out of you. She wants to get a response out of you. That response is you being upset. When you react upset, which is the natural reaction, I don't blame you. But when you respond with, you know, being upset and so on and so forth, guess what you have done? You have consolidated the belief in her mind, which is, oh, this bothers him. Let me do that more. I see that I've got something to latch onto here. Let me dig that deeper. Let me grind that deeper. Let me turn that wedge even more. Because now you have rewarded her bad behavior with a response. And this goes back to that famous quote by Baltazar Gracian that I mentioned the other day, which is essentially what Abuamerican is saying, which is just to ignore. When you respond, you reward that person. Acknowledging a petty problem gives it credibility. Now, this is not a petty problem, but the principle is still the same. You acknowledging it by getting upset rewards her. Now she knows how to get you, and she's going to do it again and again and again and again. And this was going back to the whole Abba and Preach Fresh and Fit palaver. For those of you that know what's going on, Abba and Preach were wrong to do what they did, but Myron rewarded them with his overzealous response. That overzealous response was a reward. They wanted to get a rise out of him, and a rise they got. And that's it. Now he's paying the price. And I'm going to do a whole live on that another day, explaining to you what happened there and why things have played out the way they have from a perspective of the laws of power. Point here is that don't give her a rise. Do as Abuamerican said. Firstly and foremostly, advise her for the sake of Allah. Look, my dear wife, and I'm assuming, by the way, Brother Amir, that you yourself fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're praying 5 times a day. Because look, ikhwan, if you are not taking care of the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in what planet do you think that your wife is going to give you your rights when you are not giving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala his rights? So, as a general statement, if you are not praying 5 times a day and taking care of the wajibat and those fundamental things, which are not many, there's not many things Allah asks us to do on a daily basis, then you can forget about your wife giving you your rights. Forget it. But I'm presuming you are taking care of the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do as Abuamerican said. No response. That's the best revenge. The best revenge. Jazakallah khair. Would you like anything to add to that, Abuamerican?
No, well said, bro. Well said.
Okay, another one here. Mahdi, you made a video the other day on long distance doesn't work. In that video, the scenario was the woman in the West and the man is the fob, the foreigner, I believe. Don't you think it's smart for men to marry outside women? So just to give you, just to fill you on, the video I made the other day, Abuamerican, was, so as a general rule, relationships, or it was specifically regarding courtship. Courtship, long distance, doesn't work. Okay, that was my general statement. And the reason that I gave was because there are many more factors that make this relationship unlikely to work. i.e. the distance, firstly and foremostly. In this specific scenario I quoted, this brother is from a foreign country, somewhere from an Arab country, and he wants to come over here, and there's paperwork and there's problems and all sorts. Now, the sister has said to him, yes, I will marry you, but at the very same time, she's still courting the attention of other brothers. And after getting over the indignation and all of that, I was explaining to my audience that the reason why she's doing this is because hypergamy can't afford to wait. This sister, she's getting on in age. She wants to have more children. She already has children, and she needs to find the best suitor possible in the shortest amount of time. So she has a guarantee over here, this guy. The problem is this guarantee is like a 50-50 guarantee. So if I can find another guarantee that is more guaranteed, I'll take that. And that's all I was explaining to the brothers, is the reason why long distance courting a sister long distance is so fragile, is so unlikely to work, is because hypergamy can't afford to wait. She needs to sort out her stuff much quicker than you do. Tfaddal akhi, take that away. Tell me what you think.
Yeah, in general, long distance relationships don't work. I actually have one, you know, and it's the most stressed relationship out of all of them that I have, you know. When you need her, you're not there. When she needs you, you're not there. You know, there's only so much that can be done in terms of, like, you know, online chat and whatnot. And really, it's just, I mean, you were pretty concise as it is. There's not really much more to add to it. You know, if we get past all of that, and let's just say you're her highest hypergamous option there is, it still doesn't help her. It doesn't benefit her because she doesn't have access to that man, because she wants to consolidate on that. She wants to close it down. How does she do this? What's the number one tool? Physical relations. You know, because whether people want to accept this or not, whether women want to accept this or not, I think women know this passively. Affection, I think it's, is it oxytocin or oxycodone? Oxytocin is extruded throughout the body after physical relations. What does that do? That helps with bonding and relationships. Somehow, passively, I think we know this. And so, you know, when she's not able to capitalize on that, it puts a lot of stress on everybody. It puts a lot of stress on you, it puts a lot of stress on her. It puts people in, like, you know, bad positions to where it's like you're excited, you're seeing your partner and whatever else, and then you don't have access to them. It just opens a whole lot of bad doors that are not, you know, that are not good. So it's very difficult.
I can see you in the stream, Ammar. I'm going to bring you in a second. We got 183 people on this live. Rashid, Khuzaima, Brother Mahdi, your live has been shared in a large Facebook group. May Allah bless you. Jazakallah khair. I appreciate it. We got 180 odd people live and only 25 likes. So can I please request you guys minimize the screen and just hit that like? Why? I'm going to explain why. Because my father said to me once, Mahdi, why do all these YouTube videos ask me to like? Every time they ask me to like, I don't like the video.
Hey, can you bring up this latest comment by BFA? And I want to address this.
Which
we're gonna have to go into some. This is the it's the newest comment on my screen. It says you can get this one. You can get oxytocin from hugs, giving to charity, and being around animals and babies. Yes and no. Listen, when it's most intense is men, it's after physical relations. And I don't want to go into too much details here, but we're gonna have to go into some details. But there's no shyness in Islam, and we're speaking about something from a permissible perspective. So what happens is when you are in your peak moment with your wife, your blood is filled with testosterone and adrenaline, right? And so what happens is after your release, I'm trying not to be too descriptive here, because of the shape of the male.
Abuamerican. Inna Allah la yastahi min al-haq. Really, Allah is not shy.
Yeah, but you know, I'm still at the same time, you know, some people got sicknesses in the heart. So because of the shape of the human member, what happens is there's a shovel effect, and it can actually remove the seed from the woman. And so in order to prevent this, the man needs to go flaccid. So what happens is your body flushes out the testosterone and adrenaline with oxytocin. So when it's most intense with men is after physical relations, not through hugs and kisses and babies and all that type of stuff. Yeah, sure, you get this. But when a man, it is most intense after physical relations, when his body is using it to flush out all of the testosterone and adrenaline from his system, so that, you know, he doesn't, so there's a higher success chance of pregnancy in the woman. because if he was to just keep, you know, handling his business, he would literally, because of the shape of his body parts, would shovel out all of the seed from the woman. So when it's most intense with men, the bonding for men is after physical relations. You can just look this up. This is biology 101. You guys should look this stuff up, man.
I'm going to add Ammar to the stream. He's been waiting. Ammar, assalamu alaikum. Ammar, you're added to the stream. You there? I am going to kick you out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Right. Okay. Another question here. Abuamerican and Mahdi, is this a true statement? Every woman will submit to you as long as you are able to lead properly. Many women say this, and I heard some brother who carries some knowledge say this also. Tfaddal, akhi Abuamerican.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's two things that can happen here. One, you can grow into it. And if a woman knows you before you grow into it, then there's a chance that she won't follow you anymore because she only knows the guy that she married, and he was like, you know, he didn't have his stuff together. And then when he gets stuff together, it's hard for her to take on like this new guy. Like, who is this guy? You know, in that case, it could be the case that it doesn't happen. But if you do, like, you know, I've been telling you the whole time on my channel for like years, get your stuff together before you get married, then generally it's easier for her to follow because now you have competency, you have confidence, you know, you've got the social acumen, you've got your stuff together. And so when she comes in, all she knows is that guy. You know, and as long as you've been that guy for quite some time, you've been under pressure, you've put yourself under stress. Part of the reason why I say go into boxing, because the real you comes out. If you're a coward, you're going to know it, and you know how to fix being a coward is you got to face that. And that's going to fix a lot in your life in terms of facing other fears. So when things start to collapse, you don't turn into it's not the whole fake it until you make it. You don't turn into somebody else when things start getting difficult. You actually buckle down, you do more work, you get harder, you get smarter, you start contemplating, okay, what's going on here? Why is my life falling apart? Why is it affecting me and my family? And then you come up with a competent plan to fix it. But a lot of guys, they do want, not a lot of guys, but some guys, they try that fake it till they make it stuff, and it starts falling apart, and then they start falling apart. And so, yeah, it's easier for her to lead if you know, if you can lead, if you are that guy, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I will add to that is that I find a lot of the time when women make that type of statement is because they fundamentally don't want to be led. So they start setting up goalposts for you to have to run to until you finally arrive, and you never arrive.
Yeah, that could be true.
Yeah, if a woman is operating from that angle, and you're gonna have to deal with this case by case. But if she's operating from an angle of I don't like being led by a man, why should I lead? I saw a TikTok video of this sister the other day, and it was to the effect of they say behind every man there is a great woman, and then the response was I would never know because I've never stood behind a man, right? So if she's got that type of attitude, that type of flex, then all she's doing is setting up goalposts for you to run to so she can disqualify you, right? But you are going to have to figure this out and treat it by a case-by-case basis. But generally speaking, Abuamerican's, you know, advice is on point. So
yeah, I'm going from the perspective that you know, this is like, you know, a positive, you know, and not like the negative. Yes, if you want to take the negatives in there, then you can go on all day about this. Yeah, for sure.
We've got someone else here. Hey, adding you to the stream. How can I? What you got for us? Assalamu alaikum. Hey, are you there? No. Okay. Right. Moving on. There's another question here. Okay. Okay. This sister says, Abuamerican, women don't need to submit to their husbands. Tafaddal, akhi. Have fun.
Okay, don't submit to your husband. Maybe you should. Women don't need to get to submit to their husbands. Maybe this woman doesn't need a husband at all. Maybe she doesn't want a husband. I mean, you want to submit to your boss? One way or another, you're submitting to somebody. So you want to submit to a boss? You want to submit to your husband? Which is it going to be? You're going to submit to somebody. You know, why don't you believe that a woman needs to submit to her man? This is more like a question that it pops in my head. Why do you believe this? You know, I mean, I've never, and you can attack me for this, I've never seen a woman that isn't like a paper thin hair away from turning into a crying wreck at the moment of a flat tire, you know, a broken washing machine. I just dealt with this yesterday. Some sister, she hits me up. I forgot she existed. She hit me up. It's like, oh, they fired me for my job. She's like falling apart. I'm like, you fired me for my job? I'll be like, Allahu Akbar, thank you. You know, I need an excuse to quit anyway. You know, I'm looking for a reason. I'm like waiting for the boss to say something so I can just, you know, pull the trigger on him, because I make more off Abuamerican than I do off him anyway. I'm looking for excuses, and it's like she gets fired, you know, and she just falls apart. She becomes an absolute wreck. You know, so why wouldn't you want to submit to a man when he's actually the one that's going to be able to guide you and lead you in a way that he takes all the pressure and all the heat? No, you know, I'm wording this wrong. I'm trying to say so much and so little is coming out. Okay, let me come from this from a different angle. Allahu Akbar. I don't even know where to start. Give me a second to collect my thoughts here. Give me 1 second.
I'm in there whilst you're gathering your thoughts.
No. It's here. The thought is here, but it's like it's slipping me. Oh, wait. She doesn't need to submit. The law doesn't give men a framework to establish this. What law are we talking about? She doesn't need to submit. The law doesn't give men a framework to establish this. It's not about the law. It's about the natural order. It's about the fitra. Women submit. You're right. She doesn't have to submit to her husband, but that puts her in a masculine frame. And what happens is a woman in a masculine frame is like a very poor example of a man. What she is she's a dude that can't do push-ups or pull-ups properly. So when a woman submits to a man, she's in a feminine frame, and it brings out the best of a man, which is his masculine frame. And so if a woman doesn't submit, she'll never know what it's like to be the best version of herself. In the same way that if a man doesn't bring up his masculinity and take a hold of it and take charge of it, he'll never know what it's like to be the best of himself. I can give you the example from the male side of the game, which is basically this. There are good men, and there are guys who are good at being men, and then there's both. So a guy can be a good man, and we see this a lot with the Muslims, and I'm not crapping on the Muslims for this. Be a good man. But a lot of Muslims are not good at being men. Let me repeat that. A lot of Muslim men are good men, but they're not good at being men.
I got you.
So where does that make a woman? Where does that put a woman who doesn't submit? You're the exact same thing. You might be a good woman, but you're terrible at being a woman because you don't know how to submit. So, okay, fine, don't submit. But then, you know, it's like me being a good guy, but not being good at being a man. It's like, yeah, it's nice. Women want to friend zone me, but they don't want a guy like me. And you're the same thing. Yeah, that's nice. You know, you're a good woman, but guys don't want to be with you. So don't submit. It's not about the law. It's about help. It's about that in the permissible sense, that yin and the yang, where men and women come together. And if you don't think that's necessary, then fine. Get used to being alone. Get some cats, you know, get some of that halal sparkling wine and Netflix and have fun.
I mean, I typically hear these type of comments from women who've never been married before. I'm going to take a wild guess. If you're a sister, that is, you might be a troll brother. But typically, I hear these type of statements from young sisters, late teens, early 20s, who are in their prime, so they have lots of options, who have tons of beta orbiters that they dictate and call the shots with, so they're used to controlling the options, and have no experience of being married. So this whole notion of submit is like an alien word. It's offensive to her. So I'll say to your sister, exactly what about don't submit. And you see how that works out for you. You see how that works out for you. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. Some people, the comments are saying it was a troll. Okay, khair, inshallah. Moving on. Abuamerican. We'll wrap this up, inshallah. It's Maghrib here in 10 minutes' time, actually.
Yeah, inshallah.
I've got this. All right, let's add this guy to the stream real quick. Let's see, make it a quick one. Hey, Tfaddal, Salaam Alaikum. You're in. Unmute your mic, big man. Unmute your mic. Salaam Alaikum. Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes. My internet. I'm outside the house right now. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. What's your name?
Okay. My name is Ammar.
Ammar. Salaam Alaikum. What you got for us, sir?
Walaikum assalam. So this is, I'm allowed to ask questions on here, right? It's not just for making comments, etc.
Yes, please. And those of you in the chat, please like the video. Please like the video. Help the algorithm. Yes, Ammar. Tfaddal.
Okay. So my question for you is, do you agree with the statement that If a young man, possibly in his late teens, if he is not exactly certain what he wants to do for the next 10, 20 years of his life or so, do you agree that he should be going to uni just to be going through the system until he can figure out what he wants to do?
Good question. Abuamerican, please. Tafadhal.
Sorry, he should be what until he figures out what?
So until he figures out his purpose, what he wants to be doing with his life, do you agree that he should be going through university or the educational system just so he's going through the system, you know, while he's figuring until he knows what he wants to do?
I mean, yeah, do something, because if you do nothing, the time's going to pass. You know, so either way, the time will pass. If you do something that has a purpose, but you're not really into, the time will pass. And if you do nothing, the time will pass. Either way, it's better to have done something, even if you're not like, you know, fully committed to it and it's not your, you know, your purpose or your mission. It's better to have something that you've worked on and worked on mastering, as opposed to just sitting around and doing nothing, trying to figure it out until some idea hits you in the head. You know, like if it's a meteor, you know, it's not, you know, it's better to do something than sit around and do nothing, you know, because you'll most likely find your purpose, or you'll most likely find, you know, your mission or your goal, or develop it while you're doing whatever you're doing in university. So yeah, it's definitely a better plan than just sitting around doing nothing, waiting for, you know, ideas to fall out of the sky or someone to come along and give you a good idea, you know. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good idea if you're not sure, you know, what you want to do or where you want to go in the next 20 years. Do something. Does that answer your question?
Does that answer your question? Is he there? Is he gone?
Just clear.
Why, yeah.
Your internet's laggy. You're lagging.
Yes, because I'm driving at the moment.
Yeah, what did you say just now? Repeat your question.
I said, so I'm driving at the moment. That's why the internet's a little laggy, but I heard the answer and it was very useful. Jazakallah khair.
Barakallah fiik, Habib.
Why, yeah.
Okay, khalas, let's wrap this up, inshallah ta'ala. Abuamerican, where can the people find you? Your
Abuamerican everywhere. Just put at Abuamerican everywhere, you'll find me.
Abuamerican everywhere. Perfect. Anything coming up you want to announce? I know you've got your book is dropping soon. Do you want to plug that in?
Yeah.
Any
Yeah, I'll drop that real quick. ETA is like a few days. Actually, the book is already published. I have to like actually order a copy for myself before we can actually get into full like actual sales. But my book on trolls, you know, internet trolls. I deal with trolls a lot. I wrote a whole book about them, and it will be available on my Gumroad very soon. You can actually buy a physical copy on Blurb. Inshallah.
Excellent. Please go and follow Abuamerican channel. He's been doing this a lot longer than I have, and the brother has a lot more experience than I do. You know, you should be directing your questions to Abuamerican long before me, and I really mean it. There's only 20 years between us, so, and you've been in this sphere much longer than me. So yes, Jazakumullah khair, Abuamerican, once again.
Well, yeah.
For those of you in the chat, barakallahu feekum, make sure you sub to the channel, like the video and sub the channel if you like this content. If you don't, hit the dislike. I don't care. The algorithm doesn't discriminate. Even if there's thousands of dislikes, it still pushes it. Outrage porn. Yallah, take care, everyone. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.